This entrepreneur is turning over £25 million selling candles, and he's not done yet. Today we are talking to Luke Bream. He's going to tell us how he built his business. We're going to learn what challenges he faced along the way, and he's going to tell us what his ambitions are. Luke will be a billionaire. I have no doubt about that. And in this episode, you're going to see why. I'm James Martin, and this is Entrepreneur Conversations. Luke, thank you very much. You found us all right because you don't live locally.
No, I'm not. I'm up near Manchester. So it's
what
really
happened?
Nice to be here.
What did you tell me? You were at the rugby.
At the rugby, I went to. I'm very fortunate. I've got debentures at Twickenham, so we go to all the matches. Okay. So we were at the Argentina game.
Who is the sporty person? You or your wife?
No, my wife. My wife is absolutely fanatical about sport, and her whole family is. So we take her mother to. Her mother is in her 80s, and we take her to watch Liverpool. To watch the football. Yeah, she is like, and she's like a schoolgirl when she goes. She just loves it. And so my wife and I go to sport mad. So Liverpool, the rugby, we went to the Olympics. We spent 17 days in Paris for the Olympics. Wow. And went to a different event every day, and we saw everything from kind of weightlifting through to kayaking through to the women's 100-meter final. It was
so the whole thing then, look, is the atmospherics of being there for you.
For me it is. Yeah. I know very little about sport. My wife has all the sports knowledge. I like the experience of going to things. So the thing that my wife and I do a lot, we travel a lot together, we go to a lot of things together, and they're all about experiences. Whether we were on Saturday night, we were at the ballet, and we went to watch the Nutcracker, so it's just different experiences.
Very nice. And you probably need that release from. I've got to know you briefly through James Sinclair's podcast, and I met you at one of James's events, and you and I had a conversation to one side. You have an extraordinary business, and it's an extraordinary way it's done online for. Can we just do the name of Valente?
Valente, yeah.
Valente, and that this is a brand very similar to high-end candles and scents.
100%.
What other products? Well, it's just not just candles, is it?
Candles, reed diffusers, which are our biggest part of our business. We also do skincare items, soaps and body washes and things like that. But home fragrance is really what we do best. We're quite unknown, but probably one of the largest now UK manufacturers of home fragrance.
Okay.
And we're a little bit different. Most companies in the space, we're direct to consumer. So what that means is we're selling direct to the customer through our own website, a little bit on Amazon, and we're not selling through shops. That has got positives and negatives to it, but it means that we tend not to get noticed very much, and has allowed us to grow.
But listeners and viewers, this is like £25 million turnover business and growing. What did you tell me off air? You said you've grown 50 times?
We're 50 times bigger than we were in 2000 and at the end of 2019.
Wow.
We've got, including agency staff, we've got more than 200 staff now, whereas in the end of 2019 we had 5 staff. And we were really one of these COVID success stories, I suppose. Okay. We came into COVID. At the end of 2019, had sales of 500,000 a year. We were doing consumer shows. So you'd have seen us at the Ideal Home Show, at county shows, at the RHS Flower shows. And all of those shows, we manufacture all the products ourselves. And we were trading from a small unit on a dairy farm. And COVID came along, all the shows were cancelled. We had a tiny online business, but it really was very small. And we had to go online, so we were forced to. And we got the bounce back loan. So we were big enough to get the full bounce back loan, so the 50,000. We'd never had £50,000 in the bank before. And suddenly we were able to go after online. And ironically, online was always the business I wanted to build. I had a background in online.
And even back then, is that what you wanted to do? You're trawling around doing the shows and dragging yourself around the country 100%. Doing that. But you had that in your head.
Yeah, and that weirdly was my background. You know, right. I'd spent the late 2000, I'd had a business go bust in 2006. And then from 2007 to 2011, I was building web applications for people. So that was what I was doing.
For other people, yeah.
And so COVID came along, all the shows. So we started advertising on Facebook, and that first week we spent £1,000 on ads. By the end of that first year, we'd spent just under £1 million, and that really catapulted the growth. It was like being attached to a rocket ship, and there was a window of opportunity there which was unique to its time. when you think back and remember COVID, what happened in the advertising space is all the big advertisers suddenly panicked, everyone retrenched and stopped advertising. So Facebook advertising is highly competitive, it's technical, it's difficult to get right. And when you are new to it, it's very expensive. Like, you make mistakes, you don't get the ads right. So normally, it's so expensive to learn those lessons, whereas we had this window of opportunity where it was just much easier. There was a natural, it's always easier to swim in a fast-flowing channel. And we were swimming at the very time when everyone wanted to shop online. They were into wellness because of the effects of COVID, at the very same time as the big advertisers weren't there. So we had a 2 or 3 month window.
And look, were they not there? Had they pulled back?
They literally pulled back.
Really?
They had the COVID advertising was a stage of a kind of a tale of two different types of companies.
It's a bit like the Wild West. It happened. There were those opportunities. You saw it.
And you had some big advertisers. Coke, I think, for example, continued advertising through COVID, whereas most other big brands stopped.
Right.
They just completely shut down their spend. So it just made it cheaper.
And so, do the number for listeners and viewers. What do you currently, on average, spend a day a week?
Right.
Do that number, because this is going to blow your mind.
So I have to put this in context, because we're coming into Christmas now. So I've actually just cut the spend down. So if I give you what our spend was a month ago, we were spending about $650,000 a month. So around 24,000 pounds a day. And a mixture virtually.
Look, that's seriously big balls.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But you've got the. I mean, I'm saying you've got the mechanics of it. That's how it has to be.
No, it doesn't have to be that, and we've just reversed out of that. To be fair, now, because we need to prioritise our profitability, and it's very hard to spend that level of spend profitably. You are basically investing and acquiring customers, so you get diminishing returns, and the acquisition cost rises as you spend more money. And it's almost a direct graph, like you spend more money and your acquisition cost just rises and rises.
And can you see on that ROAS, can you see where you're getting retention on customers?
We've got massively high retention. That's what underpins our entire business model. So when you look at our retention, 80% of our transactions are returning customers. It takes 30 days for about 20% to come in and make a second purchase. And we typically peak at around 55 to 60% of customers will make multiple purchases.
But are those repeats triggered by the more advertising?
No, so in the main, no, because we have a massive email list for more than 400,000 people on our email list. And so the bulk of those return sales come from email. But we have a nominal spend on Facebook. Currently, it's about 1,400 to 2,000 per day on our existing customers. And if we ratchet that completely down, that would have a material impact on our sales to returning customers. So in the main, we're trying to spend money on new customer acquisition, but you have to be super mindful of that, because when you grow, the wheels can so easily come off. Like, it's, you grow aggressively, and I have an expression inside the business: we earn the right to get bigger. And if you haven't earned that right, if you haven't created the structure, the business processes and everything around that to support the bigger size, the wheels come off. And when the wheels come off, it's painful.
Because your story goes back to how you'd financed and bootstrapped it to the position you've got, and you'd taken out, and you still are having to take out in different parts of the season, these punitive loans, because you were on the end of year accounts, it was showing that there was a loss, and this wasn't going down well with going to a more conventional high street lender, and you're still having to do that. But you're on the way to repairing that, and that repair is going to really make a massive difference, isn't it?
It's life changing for the business, because we've been paying just under 5% per month to borrow money, and when you're borrowing,
Luke, it is. I'm just interrupting there. People watching and listening to this, the story of these businesses created by these entrepreneurs. Read Ant Branson's book. He did it. crikey, I did it. It's only in my latter years now, Luke, that I've got out of that, and I'm with some big noise banks now that I've got really good rates, but it's taken a hell of a long time to get there and be what I refer to as being fit for finance. And I think that's what you're just about to tell us now, is how you go and what you're doing. That's what I'd like to know now, is how are you going from these punitive charges of having to, this is the only way I'm going to do it, to what can happen next for you?
I think the steps that we've gone was, first of all, acknowledging them and admitting them, because you get trapped in this kind of treadmill, and you can't always. Being an entrepreneur is a very lonely process, and you don't necessarily. I had nobody around me who was either running a business of the size that I was, or had built one before. So you're not necessarily getting access to great advice. So the first thing was figuring out we needed that, and then what came from that was I searched out I was fortunately found a chairman who really shone a light, held a mirror up at actually what we were doing, how punitive that was, and how reactive it was making the business. So what he essentially encouraged me to do was to, first of all, focus on margin as the sanity of the business, because he felt our margins were too low. He got me to focus on building out a senior team who knew exactly our objective is to get to 100 million in sales over the next 2 or 3 years. Because
just pause on that. That's what you want to. But just up to this point, this has only happened in the last 6 to 8 months, isn't it?
Less. Right? I met him I think it's about 4 months ago.
Okay, and just up to that point, you have been doing all of those hats,
everything on my
own. So you've been doing from accountancy right through to marketing, to branding, to ads, to
operations. I mean, don't forget, we manufacture everything. So we do our own fulfillment. So we are unusual in complexity, and actually one of the things I'm doing at the moment is trying to reduce complexity, because we are developing the products in-house, we are manufacturing those products in-house, we are wrapping and fulfilling our own orders and shipping them out, and then we're doing the marketing on top, which is just crazy when you think about it. Even though I've got 200 people, you are constantly fighting on so many different fronts, and that needs to stop.
Would you give any of those parts of that out? Or is it imperative that
100%.
You would give some of that out to sub?
I went last week. I was fortunate to be invited to the Hut Group, who are a big player in our space, a multi-billion-pound company.
And when you say your space, what do they do then?
So the Hut Group own My Protein. They own Look Fantastic.
Okay.
A series of e-commerce brands.
These are proper e-commerce monsters.
I mean, I don't. Their sales are 2 or 3 billion a year, so they're massive. And I was fortunate to get invited to see their new fulfillment centre in Manchester. So we are shipping inside my business. We are shipping currently, right at the moment, about 2,500, 2,600 orders a day, 7 days a week. I suppose at peak we'll probably get up to about 3,500 or 4,000 orders a day.
God, these are big numbers.
Right, to put it in context, though, they are big numbers, but to put that in context, the Hut Group, when I was there a week ago, were shipping 600,000 orders a day. Right? Wow. Within 15 minutes of an order being placed on the website, it's been shipped. You can order up to 1 a.m. in the morning. Now, that's all completely automated with robots, like you see with Ocado, if you've ever seen their operation. And it's like, why am I trying to compete with that?
Yeah.
Like they can do that better and cheaper than us.
Yeah.
Let's not do that in-house, and let's think about concentrate where we can make a difference.
And are they owning those brands?
So they own those brands, but they're big play internally. So their business model, they've kind of split it up. They've created this part of their business called Ingenuity, which is essentially licensing and using their tech for third parties. Right. So they are, I mean, Holland and Barrett, for example, have just gone in there and they're shipping all their orders.
But would they not be a buyer of you down the road?
Well, of course, that's a possibility.
So that to have that relationship and go and see them and try and get some telephone numbers and speak to people, it would be, it's way out there, but you. So go on, do this then. I'm speaking for you. I'm saying it's right there. What is your thing? What is that in your eye? Your eyes just told me that.
It's not my thing. My thing is not to sell a business, right?
Really?
Ever since I have been I was a teenager, I've wanted to build a global business. I want to be recognized. Maybe that's the wrong word. to my mind, that the number is 1 billion. I want to build £1 billion business because I think...
Oh, I love this, Ollie. When we get a future billionaire on the pod.
I think it's possible.
No. Listen, I am with you on this. I think to have those stars in your eyes and that goal set and that mindset. Let me just cross you out here. Who are you doing it for? Who are you proving it to? Why are you being the weirdo that I consider you are and I am? Why? Why have you got to do that?
I think you are... I suppose I'm trying to prove to myself that I'm good enough, that I can do it.
So what makes you think that you weren't?
Can
we go back?
Yeah.
Who beat you as a child?
It's a weird one, isn't it?
So is there anything back there that...
I think I look back at my experiences in childhood, and they were surrounding searching out or being defined by success but not feeling successful. So, I was phenomenally good at sport but never quite achieved in sport what I could have done. I think and I look back at that now, and there's something formative that happened to me in my school years, certainly in my teens. And I think I grew up with a family that never quite had enough money, even though they were able to put me through private school. Okay. I was always the poorest person there, and I was a year ahead of myself at school. So somehow I think that was actually quite damaging for me, to be a year ahead, to miss a year of school, to go to the year above. So I was playing sport with people that were 2-3 years above me and still the best at that. But somehow I think that left me and I'm so driven. And I equate drive to work ethic, and that's not always the same thing, because I work obsessively. And I think you have to be obsessive to achieve great things, but equally you have to work on the right things.
I mean, my two-bit saying that I rattle out is, there's hard work and there's smart work.
Yeah.
And they blend between the two. But we need, as we get more mature in this, it all starts with hard work. You're never going to get anywhere without that. But it needs to actually be smart and wrapping that you're now doing a team, that you can be away from the business and you can work outside of the business and not in the business all the time, and you're kind of doing both. You're splitting yourself like Jekyll and Hyde, aren't you? Because you're coming to seminars and stuff when I've met you before, and you're working on yourself, that then you can go back and work on the business, and then but with the flick of a pen, you're straight in the business.
Yeah.
And that's tricky times.
We're in a very
and it's fragile, isn't it? You were telling me off air here how fragile from this massive turnover machine, and you need to really be so... It's almost like smoke and mirrors and voodoo to turn those ads down, turn those ads up, look at the trend, look at the season, look at the what's going on with the economy, all those things
and
come into it.
And not making mistakes, because it's when you know this from driving, right? If you drive 2 meters behind the car in front... Yeah. It doesn't take much of a mistake to have an accident, right? Yeah. Whereas I used to do a lot of driving when I was tired, and I trained myself to leave very big gaps in front of me, because that takes into account, there's more margin for error if I make a mistake. And business is very similar, and the problem is that I'm not giving myself or the business enough margin for error. We are too close to the edge all the time. Yeah. And it's one of those weird scenarios where being that close to the edge has driven the growth. Like, don't get me wrong, I am proud of what we've built and what we've done, and so on. But at the same time, we have to dial that back. We have to give ourselves more margin for error. We have to be more considered and just build stronger systems.
But I think that you were explaining to me off air there that the way that your perpetual motion, you could turn that down.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's in your DNA to do that. I think you've got into a pace that you're quite comfortable to move in.
But I have to turn it down, because if I don't...
No, that would be related to the finances.
Yes, it's
related. This is not related to actual growth of what you could do. If the finances were right, you could carry on growing.
I'd be going at 1 million miles an hour.
At that speed and beyond. But it gets down to whether the company's financed correctly, because you'll be over trading, that you probably are over trading, and that way that's always going to be tightrope walking. But from when I just did a helicopter view with you briefly just before we came on air, these are very easy fixes. It's easy for me to say. They're very hard fixes for you to do, but they're very easy fixes for the mechanics of the business. Because if you resolve the borrowing, and if you resolve some of the pressure off of you, that would give you more time to be working on your superpower that probably is the actual mechanics and the mastery of how those ads work and what they do, and where you can go and grow the business into other sectors. You've got all of this data. You don't just put one more product on, bang, and it's gone. James was talking about putting some personalization, bang, and it's gone. You know, I mean, because you've got such an audience.
We've got a huge audience. They're very loyal. You know, I remember reading a thing years ago about raving fans. Get yourself 1,000 raving fans, and that's what we've got inside our business. But we damage those by getting operational stuff wrong, because we get if we get really busy, which we are. We had a spike to show how responsive our business is. I read a particular book that advocated a type of offer, and I read that. Got my team to read it. I then listened to the audiobook as well, and I said, go out and create me one of those to my team. They went and did that. Overnight, and I promise this is true, right, that overnight our sales increased by £200,000 a week from putting this offer live. And that's how responsive our business is. And the real value that I can bring to the business is in searching out and looking for the opportunities, my superpower is looking at the outside world, the big wide world. I consume
how will it be digested or taken on? What was the book?
That's Alex Hormozy's book, $100 Million Offer. So his whole series. I think he is. I mean, I've been reading business books and learning about business for more than 30 years, ever since I was at school, and I think he is without doubt the number one person in the world at the moment in thinking about offers and growing businesses and the mechanics of all of that. I don't think there's anybody better.
And the psychology and digestion of those offers. I've read two, and James was reading the other one in the office yesterday. I was with James yesterday, and he was reading it, and he was going on about it. And and I'm glad you've brought it up on the pod here, because if you say you did one thing, there's loads of things that he shows you to do, isn't there?
So many. And actually, this year I joined when his new book was launched. I'd had so much value from a £30 book that ultimately I went through an upsell process, and so he launched that new book. I did the first upsell on his thing on that third book launch, which was $6,000, and then I did the next upsell, which was another $18,000. So I spent $24,000 to get access to more knowledge from him, and I did that on the basis that I probably had £10 million worth of value from a £30 book.
It's very good, isn't it?
So
powerful.
It was very, very powerful, and I think searching out knowledge. It's for me is what it's about.
And we've got young entrepreneurs watching, we've got seasoned entrepreneurs watching and listening, but that statement that you just said, it's so true. To go and get involved in my masterclass. Welcome. But to do these things, you only need one or two brilliant sayings 100%. Or ideas, and you can just change things. That tweak of the model, that change of mentality, that change of mindset, where it's set. No, change it. And to have a different way of looking. And sometimes it's just enough, Luke, to come, when we were at the business masterclass thing with James, there was so many people in that room to have a different attitude and thought process. You and I were talking about a lot of other things. We were talking about your business, but we were also talking about commercial property and how to get revenue streams when you're asleep at night without worry. We were doing all these different things, and it allows us to get out of the depth of the woods of our business sometimes.
And we need to, because that's where the real growth happens. Because you start. Different sectors, different people have a different take on life, and if they're successful in themselves, you need to get the advice from the right people. You need to be careful about who you get advice or where you go looking for advice. I think, because there are a lot of people out there who get rich quick bollocks. But if you find the right people, then they're successful for a reason, and I always think it's interesting, right? There are very common traits amongst successful people who've built businesses or made great wealth. They share similarities, but they also have very distinct differences as well, quirks to them. And I'm fascinated by differences in my own business. When we look at numbers, for example, in advertising, what we're really looking at is we're looking for differences, either good or bad. We're not, if the number's trending, it's as if it's the same. That's not where the interest lies.
No.
Where the interest lies is where it's different, and why, and then we're trying to unpick why is it different. And I do the same thing with people and businesses, other people. So it's like, what's different about your business, than mine? What can I learn from your business that I can bring into my business?
Yeah. I did a post yesterday, whenever it was, I was talking about, you know, the hot dog seller next to the football stadium, or the ice cream seller in the sun on the beach, and they've got the queue, this customer base of hot to go, and trying to find how can you can't replicate that in your business, but how do you form the tension of snatch and grab and want, you know, and if you can just put some of that in what you do as a service or product, it really holds you instead with how then you model to always put some of that in there, that offer finishes soon, 4 places left, or whatever it might be.
100%. And without that, you advertise alpha struggle.
Otherwise, it's just boring, isn't it? It's just noise, and you need to get attention and to get the people to warm towards you.
But what's interesting about that is actually that it's relatively easy to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, that a little bit of looking and studying other people's models like that. So we always, like, for example, in our own business, I'm constantly looking at other successful business, not necessarily in our space, but I might be looking at other successful e-commerce companies. And then we reverse engineer what they're doing. How does their offer work? Where do they send the traffic? And I go through as if I'm a customer. We look at every single one of their ads. We look at their email. We look at their landing page. And what we're trying to unpick is, this is obviously working for them because I can see their growth numbers, for example. I can see their sales.
So the numbers won't lie to what they're doing.
So why is it working so well?
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about Baddow Park Mastermind. I have created a mastermind for high-level entrepreneurs. There's only 16 spaces and we've only got a few left. If you often find you're the biggest fish in the pond at other masterminds, click the link in the pod description, because this might be just for you. Now, back to the pod. A question that I try to ask all guests when they're on: what was, do it this way, what has been your worst day or the worst moment in business? You said you had a business before that failed.
Yeah, I've had 2 businesses that failed.
And hats off to you. I've got 4, 5, 6 businesses that promptly failed, but I'm a completely different business owner from those failures.
Yeah, me as well.
Did you experience that? But what's been your worst moment with it all?
I think one of the worst moments was having the bailiffs come in. My second company was a sandwich factory, and having the landlord send the bailiffs in, and where they come in and they're documented, they're going around writing down all of the fixtures and fittings, and you have to sign something to say that if you don't pay the rent, then they're going to come in and take it. And that was a pretty tough moment.
It's a sick in the mouth moment,
you know, and then actually obviously closing those companies. You know, it's and I think, you know, my first company, I took in an investor into that business after I'd been trading a few years, and ultimately that business didn't work out, and I was called into a main board meeting of his company, and gave a short presentation, and then 5 minutes later I was called back in. They said, we're closing the company down, and it was the right thing to do, right? But it's given me almost a pathological fear of having outside investors in the business, to being in that. So I think there's an expression for VCs have, I think, like around scar tissue that entrepreneurs have from really serious life experiences. And there's no doubt, like you, that the experiences I've had both in my formative years have made me driven, but they've also given me the hunger, the belief, the fear of failure, you know, that just, and also making tough decisions. I remember when my sandwich factory went bust. I was using a consultant at the time, and he said to me, if this was my business, I could save this business. I would save this business. And I was really pretty offended by this. And I'm like, I'm doing everything that can be done. But I look back on it now, and he's 100% right. I wasn't taking the really tough decisions that were required. And I think that's one of the things you really learn. Like as I've got older, as I've got more experienced in business, there is generally the right thing to do. And we ignore that at our peril.
When I used to do a lot more one-to-one consultancy. I don't do that now, but we'd go into a business, and very early doors, you could see that the writing was on the wall, and this model wasn't going to work or whatever it was. People wanted to debate with me, and I started getting a bit frustrating because I could see it immediately. I could see that AI was going to take their chunk of change away from them in the very near future. The model was completely broken. It wasn't fit for purpose for today's markets and whatever was happening with it. But I think you're so right that you have to look at these things sometimes out of the weeds, but looking back into the business that ain't going to work because my scars tell me it's not.
And you have to be brave. You have to really get comfortable with making hard decisions. Sometimes I annoy people around me because they say, well, you don't listen. And I push back at that and say, I do listen, but I make my decision at the end of that. Because a lot of the time I will use people around me as a really strong sounding board, and I'm asking them, I'm exploring an idea, and I'll explain some concepts to them. It's not necessarily because that's what I want to do. No. I'm sounding it out in my own mind. And then when it's a way of getting feedback on an idea as it develops. But ultimately, you have to be prepared to take really hard, uncomfortable decisions.
And you're doing that now, aren't you? I mean, this is the process you're going through now. You were speaking to me off air, so you're spending some money on building this team.
Explain and also cutting ad spend. So we've cut. I've came back in a month or so ago and absolutely slashed our ad spend because. Why are we trying to grow and compounding the problem? It's like if you're in a hole, stop digging. And we were just chasing growth when actually, if we just rein back the spend, and as an illustration, if I look on a similar level, at the moment we're doing about 660,000 a week in sales. And 5 weeks ago, I lost money on that same level of sales, lost 30,000 quid. I cut the ad spend out, and all of a sudden, like last week, we made £150,000 profit. So from just that tweak. So the business is incredibly responsive, but you have to make these decisions. I've had to bring people in who know more than me and listen to them and run the business for profit, because I don't want to be beholden to reliant on a lender coming in and doing that, because I feel like we've got three options going forward. One, we managed to secure a blue chip lender to come in and support the growth.
But that's a facilitation of cash, isn't it? You don't want a partner.
No, I don't want. And the second option is we have an outside investor come in. That's my least favourite option, because I give up control. I've got to do that, and that's going to be expensive, because I'm going to do that at the moment when I have to do it, and that's always never a great time to be selling a stake in the business. And the third option is just to trade profitably every single day, because then I've got sanity. I've then got options, because the weird thing about our cash flow model is it's very positive. We do a sale today, I get the money in my account the next day, and I don't pay my suppliers for 60 days. So if I'm profitable, I don't need more money in the business.
No, that's it. But you need to get to that cruise.
I need to get that point, and I'm not there at the moment. And it's I think one of the interesting things for me at the moment is just, I always thought when I was smaller that the challenge of growth was acquiring the sales. That's not true at all. Actually, it's relatively easy to grow in this modern age with ads. It's relatively easy to grow sales. What is not easy is to stop the wheels falling off when you have growth. Operations, systems, people, training, marketing, manufacturing, strategy, like actually getting all of those pieces in the jigsaw to be able to cope is not easy at all. And it's both from an intellectual point, I find that challenging, fascinating, but God, it's hard.
When we were building up, say the business parks, and when we were doing that I would always be judged whether we could do any more investment was on my VAT, because the VAT, they'd suddenly say, we've got £150,000 VAT bill to pay for this quarter, and I go, well, we didn't pay anything last quarter. He said, no, because we were building factories like crazy and stuff like that. And at that stage, I'd always go, right, let's find somewhere else to buy and build something else to keep that that bill. I know it sounds like a short measure, but that measure would always tell me where we were, that we'd got onto a plateau of actually earning and churning. And we're going to end up with a big tax bill at the moment. So let's just buy somewhere else and just carry on growing it and growing out of that situation. But commercial property, do you own any of the premises you're in?
No.
And is that something you're going to look to do?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It terrifies me that my entire wealth, I don't even own the house that my wife and I live in. She owns it because it's too risky for me to own it. If the business went pop, we'd lose that as well. So it's...
Guys, this is proper entrepreneur stuff. When you listen to Luke, he's put everything he's in.
Yeah.
Everything's
all in,
isn't it,
It's
baby?
all in.
Jeez,
and there's nothing
Luke,
outside of that.
You're extraordinary.
And that can't continue like that. And what comes with that level of stress as well, like my wife was a school teacher, she's retired now, and we met in later life, I think we've been together nearly 7 years now, and she had never experienced anything like this. And that was an eye-opener, and I'm becoming more and more aware of the level of stress that goes with this kind of growth, with this kind of model, this kind of approach to business, is both not for the faint-hearted, but also and there's an element of that needs to change, because it's not fair on her to put her through that level of stress, and it's all about the long term. It's not, things that grow fast are actually very risky. They tend to come down quickly as well, and I think I see myself as still wanting to be doing this in 20 years' time or 30 years' time. And so if I grow at just a little bit slower for a more sustained period.
And do the difference here you've brought the stress on yourself and you're marshalling the stress and you've puffed your chest up and you're holding it and holding it and holding it and holding it, but you can only hold it so long at that tension. Yeah. Where are you with worry?
I think that ebbs and flows, almost entirely driven by finances. Yeah. So I've dealt with stress for long periods of my life. And I think any entrepreneur is likely to have done that. And we get pretty good at coping with that. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I used to when I was young. I stopped I haven't drunk for alcohol since I was 25. And so my coping mechanisms are relatively healthy. Yeah. I throw myself into more work. That's probably my solution to that. Yeah. But I think with worry, that comes and goes. And when we are under financial stress, that's where the worry's the most. Yeah. And it's what I'm trying to resolve, because I just don't want to be in that position anymore.
But Luke, you are, because the neutralizer to worry is action, and you are taking the action, and you are looking to improve yourself, to actually find out that what are the things I've got to do to neutralise these problems.
We touched on Alex Hormozy earlier, and he has a concept of your number one constraint. And he says that at any point in any business, for any individual, there is going to be a number one constraint. So if you're a weightlifter, for example, and there are two elements of the lift, like there's the grip strength and the strength of your back. Let's say your grip strength can only cope with lifting, 200 kilos. But your back strength you think, I'm going to train my back and get stronger. Well, you get your back strength up to 500 kilos, it's irrelevant, because the constraint, you drop the bar at 200. Yeah. So any investment in the non-number one constraint is actually only building future potential, but not right now.
No, and it's not solving the problem.
Not solving the problem.
No.
So I've been thinking an awful lot about that inside my business. And one of the things I've realized is that I'm actually the number one, a part of me. So margin is the obvious number one constraint. But the next constraint really in there is about me, because I am so interested in lots of topics that I go darting about all over the place. And actually, as the business got bigger, that's more problematic, because I can go into finance and go, how about this great idea? Yeah. Then I go and then I leave in 2 minutes, explain something. It's going to take them a month to sort out. Then I go into another department and say the same thing. And actually, I have to figure that out and focus myself and the whole business on a very small constraint, which in our business terms is margin. Because if we improve the margin in the business, everything else
works around it. Do you when you talk about that, Luke, do you draw that out on paper? When you swap down on it, do you?
Yeah, I have whiteboards. So my office is not that big. I have a table in it, almost exactly the same size as your table in there, and I've got 13 whiteboards around the wall. Wow. And so I have my org chart on a big one, so the company, because I'm constantly evolving that, thinking about how we can better put people, and then ideas all over the place. So my number one constraint is straight in front of me. So we have the vision, like we want to be, the number one home fragrance company in the UK. which we're working towards. But I surround myself by that, and I explore ideas, and I teach people. I see a lot of my job as being about teaching. So I'm sharing knowledge all the time with my team.
But I think you've also come to the classic thing of being a meddler, and throwing those hand grenades into those departments, because. And I've struggled with it most of my life with teams that I've had through all sorts of types of business. But I'm getting to the point in my senior sort of years on this that, look, they glare at me. And I turn on my heels and go out. Yeah. They know I'm coming with this sort of like shiny idea, and I've got to learn to leave them be and get on with what they do very well day to day, is actually operating that business for me. And we huddle meetings and stuff like that, and we throw ideas. And I really think sometimes, I'm at a calmer level to where your growth is. People just are giving me the nod. That
self-awareness is hard, isn't it?
It is, but I think that what's so exciting about what you're doing is that the proven thing is there. It's just how the mechanics work within it on the finance and stuff to make it. It only has to move. It only has to move like a couple of percentages.
We're looking at our EBITDA targets for next year are 10 million.
Yeah.
So there is a colossal opportunity. We're in a very big marketplace.
But to get to that 10 million, Luke, be fair, you've got to sort out some quite major borrowing problems
100%,
to do that.
I've got to resolve
borrowing. You're spending how much a month on interest, roughly?
At least 600. We last year we spent 600,000 on interest.
In 1
Currently, in 1 year. Currently, we're spending about £1,500 a day.
Yeah. Serious numbers, isn't it? And you told me about those numbers of what that's costing you punitively. You could melt that if you could actually get a regular lender to come in, understand the story. But I think your man that's brought in, as the chairman, if he starts writing up that fit for finance document, that you'll be able to walk into, there's some sort of key players that would do that, and there's some key players that won't go anywhere near it. You need a bank that is more in that space. They would understand it. But every time you're not there, you're always building up a track record anyway.
Exactly. And it's partly why it's so important to bring people into the business who've been there before, who've got that skills, who've got the track record with the banks, who, we can point to, here's the head of finance, here's his track record, here's our head of operations, here's his track record. It's not just me.
I had, 18 months ago, I brought Handelsbanken in. So when we had 2 punitive loans and another loan with a regular bank, and we wanted to wash it all together and go with one banking at a better percentage point, because we've gone through those punitive charges on the high street, punitive charges without secondary loans. When we're all done and dusted, I sat down with the branch manager and I said, "Oh, well, that's all good." And I said, "So what happens?" He said, "We look at 9 and probably take 1."
Wow.
I said, "Wow, what is that then?" He said, "No, because we are so picky of having our long-term relationship," and they really did look everywhere. They looked at history. They asked me questions way back of why this was done, what was it, taxation, tax returns. Yeah. They looked at everything. But he came back, Luke, and said to me, "What we liked about your business is when we asked for the information, it happened within hours."
Yep.
And that said a lot to us, that your team were able to give us those answers very quickly. Then we looked at who your accountants were. We looked at who the people were operating the business for you and with you. And all of that started making a joined up sense to whether they had, if we give you this money, you have a team that will run it properly for you and for us to be paid. And they're underwriting their position all the time, aren't they?
Of course they are.
What's been the best moment then? If that was your worst moment with the bloody bailiffs, what's been that sort of like, where has it been that exhilaration?
I think one of them was this huge increase in sales. That's when you've had an idea, you've read something, you've got the team to implement it, and they have done that, and suddenly we put that live. I was actually at the Grand Prix the day we put that live in the summer at the British Grand Prix. And it went live, and the sales it was extraordinary.
And did you cope with stock?
No, it was horrendous. So
it was.
Yes, literally, because what was so interesting about that is we increased our sales by £200,000 a week, and then it stayed flat. The only saving grace was, if that had happened to us at Christmas, what happens at Christmas is the sales just keep rising. Right. So these sales, we got this big increase in the fat. So initially, we had this moment of euphoria. Then it was just absolute carnage because, first of all, we didn't have enough component. We didn't have the stock. We could call it in for our suppliers. The suppliers, we have to forward. We're big enough now for our suppliers to have to forward order our stock and so on. So they then gave us other people's stock to try and make the gap. So it was this horrendous process of trying to cope with that, trying to get enough stock in, components in, then trying to manufacture that stock. So we need more staff. We added 100 members of staff on, agency staff, but we added 100 members of staff on in the space of a few weeks. You've got training that goes with that. Then you get behind. So we would typically aim in our business. We have a metric that we use. How many orders have we got left in the queue to be shipped out to customers at 5 p.m? And we would aim for that number to be about 500. You don't want it to be zero because otherwise there's no work to come into, but equally you don't want it to be big. Well, that number climbed and climbed and climbed. So we were up to 10,000 orders in the queue. What then happens about 3 or 4...
That roll over to the next day?
To the next day. We've got 10,000 orders we need to ship out, right? So you're then bringing in more staff to try and do it. So the cost then goes through the roof because they're inefficient. They don't know how to do the job. They make mistakes. Then 3 or 4 days later, the customers are now not getting their orders. So you've now got this colossal problem with a customer service spike that goes through. You're adding more customer service team. It's like BA and during COVID, they can't recruit enough staff. So you had... The wheels, I thought we were operationally pretty sound until we experienced that spike, and then everything fell apart.
So that euphoria when you're at the Grand Prix was quite neutralised a bit with how do you put it out?
Yeah, and we've had and it's taken 3 months. I can't remember when we put that live. British Grand Prix is the beginning of July, so that promotion went beginning of July. Only about a month or so ago did we finally get on top of that. And even then, we were still having problems with customers. We get negative reviews, and we'd never had negative reviews before. We had 350,000.
And that piece of juice, that promotion you did, is that in now forever, or you
tweak promotions?
You tweak it,
I mean, one of the things that we do with promotions.
But you'll learn how you blend, how you release that this time round.
Yeah, and you adapt it, and we've tweaked. We've gone back a little bit more to Black Friday promotions, a bit more like we did last year, because that works really well. It's seasonal. What works well, we leave that promotion on. And what's so interesting, one of the things that I think we've done differently, and underpinned quite a lot of its success, is to identify what it is your best-selling product and make sure your best product. So the way you build returning customers, I think, is to make sure that customer has the most phenomenal first experience. So in our business, we need them to choose our best-selling fragrances the first time. Now, they're actually quite different, those two. So we constructed an offer where we forced them to choose our 2 best-selling scents, even though we knew they were unlikely. They were likely not to like one of those. But you don't need them to... It's not in our business. It's not about, that's okay. You need them to fall absolutely in love with one of those things. Then they turn into a returning customer. And so we're all about returning customers because that's the future of the business. And you need to delight customers. You need to create incredible products for them that are value for money. Anyone can promote their way.
It is so true, Luke, because it doesn't matter what type of business. You talk about it on that online sale, on their introduction to the product. Here, we clean litter up a quarter of a mile either side of a gate that what comes into the estate, but we mow the grass out there. It's all about the first impression.
100%.
And they're making their mind up before they've even got here. And that's how is it. Can we bring some product up? Because you kindly sent some through to the office that I had to stop everybody opening it up because the girls in the office all went mad. So did some of the guys, I've got to say. But it's beautifully turned out how you guys do it.
Yeah. We've always been about...
I was very interested how you did that piece of elastic.
So
very cool. I really do.
That was we used to hand tie them. So when we did shows...
Explain that to our gang.
So when we were smaller, we used to hand tie all the ribbon. And we would do thousands of boxes and tie them. And you got very good. You could tie ribbon with your eyes closed while talking to someone. So I'd be selling on the stand, talking to you, tying the ribbon. But as we got bigger and we were shipping a lot of orders, people have different strengths and weaknesses and ability. So we got these ribbon that have got a little bit of elastic at the back of them to allow you, and they flick round. And we use the same ribbon supply. It's funny how you do events and you meet people. I remember this guy coming up to his wife shopped with us, And his wife said, you should talk to John. It turned out her husband worked for a ribbon company that they're called Cole Fabrics, and they manufacture ribbon for Fortnum & Masons and Hotel Chocolat and all the loads of great brands. And we were tiny at the time, like insignificant, but because his wife loved the product so much, he started doing ribbon for us. So we'd been dealing with him forever, even when we didn't deserve to be a customer of his at that point. And so that works really well. They source and deal with everything. They've got an operation in China, and they'll manufacture that ribbon over there, and it comes over to us.
But very good. So do an unboxing. Show us how it works.
If this is our core, probably our most famous products. So we call it a best-selling gift box. And our original business model was 3 separate products. You sort of choose any product you like and put them in the box, and we'll charge you a certain price. Now it's harder for us to work like that. So this is our best-selling gift box, and it comes with three items in. So you've got one of these nice cards in it, delivering happiness and well-being, one box at a time since 2011.
When I owned some garden centres, and when we had what were they called? They're all over America. Candle company. What was that?
Yankee.
Yankee Candle. Used to come in. That was a slick machine to get that in, and to get Harold and Hilda buying those candles at the counter. Big display. God, they were all over it.
It's an interesting space.
It's very nice.
It's lovely. I mean, that's our lemongrass and rosemary. It's our best-selling fragrance. Really fresh, fills the space.
This could be going in your new house, Oliver. This is very good stuff.
Yeah, this is not going back to the office.
I don't take it back. They'll steal it. This is lovely stuff.
And packaging's important. So we've always been about packaging, because it makes the product. So actually the box and so on, people want it to feel special.
You'll love this. You'll have brownie points when you go back with this stuff. But you can see the girls, they just eat it up. I mean, James Sinclair's wife, Natalie, I mean, she's all over it. I was there yesterday, and they had loads of your stuff on the shelf.
That's nice.
That's really good. So, and then who does all this, Luke?
So we've got it originally, Justina. So Justina and I started the business from a kitchen table. So she and I in those days were a couple, and we lived in this shared house in London. I was kind of recovering from my business going bust. It was 2011. And she said, I want to start this soap business. And she was only young. It's quite a big age gap between her and I. And she was 21 and utterly fearless. And I was broken from my business going bust.
And you wounds.
And you just, it's really hard to recover from that.
No, it is. You're a crushed person, aren't you?
Yeah. The first time I went bust, I recovered really quickly. Yeah. The second time I did, it really broke
Perhaps
me.
the writing's on the wall. I'm not as smart as I thought.
I'm not smart. I can't do this. Yeah. And she was just so utterly fearless. And she's like, I want to start this business. I'm like, okay, let's, And I supported her, and she went off and taught herself using YouTube to make, and at that time it was making soaps. And we were in the shared house in London. And we had the single room, and we took over the sitting room to make soaps and things. So it's a messy process making soap, and it smells a lot. And my housemate's got really funny about it. But she started at a stall at Greenwich Market, and then the Ideal Home Show, the Media 10 team came around, and they were like, you should do the Ideal Home Show. And that really, it was too big an opportunity for us, too expensive. We shouldn't have done it. But anyway, she was convinced.
Long show, isn't it? A month?
We did the Christmas one, actually, so it was only 5 days. Yeah. But way too expensive, and just really massive risk for us. But we went ahead and we did it, and we got our money back. We didn't make any money, but it did just start the business. We got all this extra stock that we'd made, and we went in and did the Christmas markets after it at Greenwich. Yeah. And the business just grew. I got drawn into the business then. She's a very creative person now and goes off and does lots of other things. So but it started from that point of a sort of, she was fascinated by the product. I was always I'm fascinated by smell and fragrance. We're both fascinated by packaging and looking at that. And I was just fascinated by growing the business.
Have you put any of it in stores?
No, there are the odd little.
Because this was James was going on about this to you, and what is your mind on that? Thoughts?
We didn't do it because of financing, because we just couldn't afford to figure out working capital to wholesale the range. Yeah. As well as that, for a long time we had a very particular business model whereby our pricing model was based on essentially selling at trade prices straight to the end consumer.
Right.
And so that made pricing very difficult, because we were very reactive. We were aggressively pricing our product. We want to take price out of the equation, make us, so we call the rest of the industry out really. Because we think they're overpriced. We think the product ends up being too expensive.
So you think this is easily the same quality as a white company product?
Yeah, white company, Joe Malone.
But it's half
Neon.
The price, isn't it?
Yeah, less than half price. Depends who you compare us with. If you looked at the white company, we're about half the price. If you looked at Neon, we're going to be about a third of the price.
Yeah.
And you are getting the same quality of product.
And they just do that. All they do is B2C, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah. So and with that, what happens is at each price point it gets doubled. So you put that, you take the product, and you double it each time. Each check pay of hands that product goes through, and it ends up costing the consumer a lot. And I'm not convinced that's the best way. So we like having a direct relationship with our customers.
And you didn't think the numbers were there either, did you? Because you did defend it a bit with what he suggested, because he was saying they wanted to kick and smell and touch the product.
And they do. And there is, I think for me now, it's never say never, because as we fix our financial model, then, because what I'm in effect doing is I'm giving up all that shelf space to my competitors. I'm making their life easy for them. Yeah. And why should I be doing it? If I'm there, I'm going to put yet more. I put enough pressure on them online. Yeah. So why make it easy for them?
I do watch people in the stores, with all different products. And I was listening. I was actually in Costco, and I heard a mum say to her, well, I tell you what we'll do. We'll look it up on Amazon just to check. Yeah. And you can see what's going on. It will be dropped to their home as opposed to them trawling all the way home with it. She can do it on a card. She can look at other comparables to it and make a decision. And I just think somewhere along the line, this smells great. I'll check it online. And I'm not a shopkeeper. I don't know how you do that. But I do believe that if you build your team to run your existing business, it will give you more time to explore those other avenues.
I agree with you.
To make those other ways of getting the product out. Is there an Avon makeup sort of version of this where they, people can take it and do home? What are they called?
And there are party planning. I mean, you've got Tropic, which is a really successful business. Yeah. I think Susie. Her name, Susie. She won The Apprentice, didn't she? Yeah. Very successful business on that and that kind of model. And I think there's absolutely space to pursue that if we chose. I think we think, and the reason I suppose I come back to growth, that we believe we can do £1 billion, is because we're in a very big space. Yeah. There is a lot of growth.
And this is just UK, isn't it?
Yeah. So we think we can do 100 million in the UK. And then beyond that, the American market, for example, is 5 times bigger for home fragrance. You've got very big business across the Middle East and in Europe. So we're not even remotely thinking about international growth. It just adds complexity. We just don't need it. There's so much growth in the UK.
Say, what have I met you for the last, say, 4 or 5 months that I've sort of interacted with you, and the problem is not fixed. My 2 pennies, as James Martin, on to you, Luke, is that you need to fix that, because it's becoming a dominant story that you tell, and you need to make it that it's not. It's just part of the normal mechanics of what it is. Yeah, of course we have some borrowing, but we have it at this rate. Yeah. We have it at this proper fixed rate, and I think that's very doable. But I think that what you're doing, just reiterate this, is that you're now bringing in those 10,000 hours of experience from this new chairman. And when does he start, or is he?
He's just started. In fact, we're just signing the final paperwork at the moment. Okay. But he's already started. He's been helping us for the last 3 months. Yeah.
And he's going to be a mentor to you, as well as what he's going to steer inside the 100%. Mechanics of the business.
And I could see a difference immediately.
And was he in this space?
So he was originally. So he was chief executive of a business in America that was sold to Unilever for $3.4 billion. Okay.
And their thing, the Unilever thing, did James talk about this, that you get someone in, and when they were doing these big roles, they would always look at, this person has done this, whatever it is, head of operations globally or whatever, they've done this. Can they still do it? Yeah. Will they still do it? Yeah. And it was quite interesting to break it down. And that's okay then. Not necessarily.
Interesting.
What is he doing? He's he's not as fit as he used to be, or he's got a big family ties, or he's geographically in the wrong area.
It's interesting chemistry. When we were going through the process of getting to know each other, he said he had three sort of criteria for looking at it or looking at opportunities. One was, do I like the person? Do I like the business, the opportunity? Do I think I can add value and make a real difference here? And then finally, was it a big enough opportunity to be worth the time? And thankfully, in our case, we ticked those boxes.
Yeah.
But he equally has said that he feels that it's a journey for him too. He's not going to be on that ride to $1 billion. He wants to help us go to 100 million.
I sat in a meeting, someone coming in from Disney, and they were going to be doing some stuff. They wanted to know that the opportunity was big enough.
Yeah.
Is there enough for me to get my teeth into?
Yeah.
I don't want to do this just because I can do it. I want to do it because I want the challenge of it as well. And I think they're made like that, aren't they?
And the learning, because it was very interesting. He said what was fascinating for him was how much he was learning through interaction with the business because of the space that we were operating. And then we sit right at the cutting edge of what's being done in e-commerce and from a marketing perspective, from a growth perspective. And he was intellectually fascinated by that and said, I am learning a ton.
Yeah.
As a consequence of that.
I invite you to have a look over my shoulder at my newsletter. If you want to hear about the things that grab my attention each week that could bring you value, sign up in the episode description. Now, back to the pod. So, Luke, we've gone everywhere in the business. We want to get some questions answered. So we have your hard work in your bedroom. I go on every time to give you a hard time about it. Here we go. It's tombola time, people. Tombola time.
Do you want to get out the tombola?
I do. It's such a crappy. Give some money. Right, now what we're going to do, Luke, is spin these, the balls of entrepreneur questions, and then Ollie will tell us what the questions are. If you take one out, be careful.
Okay, this looks good.
Yeah, well, it's a bit sharp.
Right.
Very cheap.
Okay, I've got one. 6.
Question 6, Ollie. What have we got? Question 6.
What is the secret to marketing your product or service?
How long have you got?
Yeah, exactly. Messaging and offers.
Yeah.
You've got to get the messaging right. It makes such an enormous difference. I was listening to something last night, and the guy was talking about selling window cleaning, and you can sell window cleaning. Post a little business card, and he'd written down the messaging for that, which was look outside your window, look through the window, and what did he say? Look through the window. If it needs cleaning, give me a call.
Right.
Something it's really like dirty. Look through the window. Is it dirty? Give me a call. And it's really simple, direct messaging. So often the time we make things too complex. Yeah. We need to make messaging understandable by the lowest level reading ages and so on, so we don't have to think.
I think what we did, Ollie, we looked at what our brand strap was for this wedding venue, because we spent a lot of time trying to get it right before it launched, so we had time to do it. And we got down to, if someone bumped into someone in the supermarket and they had a branded coat on, and their friends said, "Oh, what are you doing now?" They knew exactly what to say. And that was across the gardeners, the estate workers, housekeepers, everybody. We create high-end, fabulous memories for wedding guests at Baddow Park. Yeah. And it was kind of that isn't quite what it was, but it was kind of as simple as that. And we swatted down to get it. And it was just to get that. That's what we are, and I think the copywriting to get that messaging right needs to get to less words
and simple words as well. You underestimate this article, this video I was watching was talking about the brain capacity, and just sort of saying the more complex those words are, the harder it is to get the message. And it's not about what we want; it's what the customer wants all the time. In your wedding analogy, it's the
friction, isn't it? So how hard are they going to think? We were called back in the day. It was called Trees Plus. It was trees and everything after plus. And it had a great big thing that said tree on every board, Trees Plus, and that's what it said. It needs to be the car washing company. They can wash cars.
Really simple. And then I think you shouldn't lose sight of the offer, because Hormozy has this expression, create offers that people feel stupid to say no to. And there's a lot in that.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah.
If you have really thought about the messaging of why this customer wants, what's the customer actually want at this transaction, what are they really trying to achieve from buying from you, and then if you construct an offer that is so good that people, why would they not do it?
I sat with a salesman looking at a new car, and he said to me, I said, well, why would I buy a new car? Just drive it out the thing, I'd lose 20 grand straight away. He said, well, I can neutralise that for you. So I said, show me, I'm interested. And he showed that if the deposit went in at this much, then the company would give you 0% finance for the balance. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Yeah. Because it came exactly the same as what you'd have to pay on interest related to what you'd lose as you drive it out the showroom. So he did that, and he neutralised it for me, and it showed I didn't buy anything. But it was interesting that they have obviously been trained. That question gets asked a lot. Why should I buy new when here just second-hand, it's down by 20 grand?
And figuring out who your real audience is as well, I think, is crucial, because it's in any business, there are lots of different profiles of customer in there, and I think we spend too much time talking to the fringes of that rather than actually talking
to everything,
to everyone.
That's it.
Rather than identifying who is my absolute perfect avatar or buying persona. And
because the Instagram and stuff like this is all very well, but it's kind of ambiently throwing mud, isn't it? And now with pay per click that we've embraced the last sort of 18 months here. Oh, it's just game changer for us.
The expression that you want to think of in this context is calling out your ideal customer, and you want to do it in content as well. So every single time when you post, you want to be really clear and in expression, call out exactly who you're talking to, because when you do that, then you help the algorithm find you those people, and you do it in ads or
do that. Look, explain what you mean by calling out.
So, let's say I'm a window cleaner, right? I could say, or a wedding venue. Let's talk your wedding venue here. So if I'm trying to get customers for that, well, if I call out and say, we've got a great wedding venue, come and do your wedding here. It's kind of vague. Who am I calling out? Whereas you call out, are you a Essex bride getting married who really values this, who's this? So you're calling out, you're really who's looking to spend £50,000 on a wedding or whatever it is.
Then they feel like they're talking directly to them.
The expression you want to have, right, is, and we use this a lot in theory, that's me. Right. So that's the response you need. Whenever you create a piece of content or an ad, you need the recipient, you need your absolute target person to go, that's me. Yeah. And if they don't do that, you're not creating the right content for your target avatar. You may be creating the right content for someone else, and that may be what you're trying to do. Yeah. But you have to get really clear and call that person out. So they set up a notice. You call it out in the copy, you call it out in the wording, you call it out in the actual whatever. Every part of it, you need to really make sure you're doing that.
Do you have any examples of how you do that in your business?
In ads, we would do it by calling out the type of customer. So we would call out, are you the customer? Are you somebody who cares passionate about the way your house smells? Or do you want your house to smell welcoming? So we're calling out a behaviour that we think a customer would have. Yeah, and that they'll be nodding to, like a nodding dog towards that. Yes, I do want it to do. Are you this? Are you somebody who cares about how your home smells? Are you fed up with overpriced reed diffusers that don't smell? We here at Valente Park, we spent, from opening, a lot of money on making sure every room smelled different. We had different smells in every room. We had a company come in and they were going to design a smell for the whole venue. So to play devil's advocate of that, to give you the other side of that, why did you choose to do that rather than do a signature scent for the house? No one could make up their mind what they liked. So we ended up with rhubarb in this one, and what's the name in that one, what's the name in that one, because that was, this was with the people doing the fit out, and my wife was involved in that with all her interior design crowd, and I kind of stepped to one side of it. But you leave it to chance, right? Because what you've done there is to leave the experience to chance. What you need, think back to us putting the best two fragrances in. Fragrance matters in a venue like you've got, right? You don't want to leave that to chance. You need a signature scent that people can take home with them. So you have one fragrance for the building. Everything smells the same. And then you might have a secondary one, but I would start with one, right? And then you make the building smell the same as that, so that people can take that home with them. It's a much more powerful thing, because then when there are lots of similar fragrances around, so the next time they smell something similar to that, they will put them right back to here. A lot of strong emotional connections with fragrance happen through our lives. So you'll remember a certain.
Do you do that, Luke? Do you work with businesses to do that or not?
We don't, but I could work with it. If you want some help with that, I can more than happily help you.
I think there was a company that was going to do it, and in the end we didn't do that. But just on the fragrance thing at the wedding venue, and I will take you up on that. That we had lots of comments. Oh, it smells so lovely here, and it is this, that, and that. So it did play part of the emotive journey for them doing, especially on show rounds and stuff like that. We would get it.
I'm very fortunate. We stay in a lot of hotels across the world. From spending so much on ads, we get all of the points, and they invariably have, the top hotels of the world invariably have a signature scent, and people take those products at home, they buy them, they remember that smell, and it will help to form a lasting connection with those guests.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Whereas they won't do that if you split it across different ones.
Right, we're ready for another one? You want to do another one of these? Yeah? Okay. Go for the jingle, come on, Ollie. The production of the podcast. Right, Luke, go for the next one. What have we got? Oh, God.
Let's try a purple one. Here we go. 16.
What have you had to sacrifice to be successful in business?
Wow. It's what haven't you sacrificed?
That's a good question. It gets neutralised.
I think that's the honest answer. I mean, the truth of the matter is you sacrifice everything. I've sacrificed a marriage, relationships with my children.
Look, it's such a telling story, because I agree with you 100%. I mean, if you're really on the journey, if you're not meddling with it on the side, and you're actually committed and wonky and stubborn and gritty and paranoid and frightened, all of those things is total sacrifice.
Yeah, it's all encompassing. It's all consuming, and
friendships.
It's not friendships. 100%.
It's gone. Don't hang around with any of those people anymore.
Nor me,
because I've got a mission, and they were in the way of it.
Yeah. It's an obsession, and if you really want to achieve extraordinary things, it requires that level of obsession, and you sacrifice almost everything else as a consequence.
Do you question yourself sometimes?
Sanity, possibly. I don't.
What in the mirror?
I don't question the path, because I'm probably more hungry than I ever was. I've probably worked harder than I ever did. So I don't question the life choices that I've made. I wish I'd been more successful. I wish I'd got there already. Like, I still feel like I've got a long way to go.
I am pissed off about that I didn't find mentorship and ebooks and stuff earlier. I only really found it in my 40s. It wasn't late, but I wish I'd had it early. If I'd had it in my 20s, God, that's why I'm so passionate about the podcast and doing master classes and speaking to young people, doing keynote speeches and stuff for people, because if you could mend some of the hiccups early, they could get there so much quicker. And England could be a better place. Because
it isn't a fallacy when people say, if you took everything, if they took everything away from you, and all you had was yourself to start again, I'm sure within 12 months you'd be right back on it, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we could help people avoid some of the stupid mistakes we've made, to learn some of the lessons quicker, because I've been looking at something recently. I said the most valuable people to teach are the people actually just behind you, because it comes from Montessori schools, where Montessori schools, they get the actual older kids teach, because they're mixed age classes.
They're all in the same
They're all in
class.
the same space. Yeah. And what's great about that is that the teaching, a lot of the teaching is done by the older kids who've just gone through that, and they understand what that looks like. Whereas a lot of traditional teaching in business has been done for someone who's very far removed away. They're hugely successful, and it's very different. Whereas the most valuable lesson is almost in teaching the people who are just coming up a little bit behind you, going through the same thing you went through a few years ago, because it's very fresh.
Edward's 13, he's in a school in Mougins, my little boy, and that is very interesting. They do it's a multi-sensory school, so they do all SENS, but the SENS teachers go in the lesson.
Wow.
And they don't drag them out.
Yep.
That's
really good.
That's very unique, because you're coming out for a special lesson.
Yeah.
No, a teacher's going in to sit on a table of 4. Nobody knows. They don't know who that teacher's in there before.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the tables of 4 that they sit at, if the bright spark is there, the maths boy that's really good at maths, he doesn't go with all the other bright ones at the front that are good at maths. He comes with the kids that are not good at maths, and the one that's good at drawing goes with the girls that aren't good at drawing, and they mix it up purposely for what you were just explaining there with the Montessori classes. And I see the growth in Edward of what he's able to add to the class, because he's so knowledgeable about so many bits and pieces and how he sees the world, and then how they help him slow down, look at numbers slowly and not so rushed and things like that. And you know, we've gone off piste a bit here, Oliver, oh God, what is school teaching children to do? What jobs are they going to have? It worries me, because I think what are they going to come out and do? This job market, what bloody jobs? I know. You know, you're going to have
and you've got AI encroaching into that.
Just rip everything to pieces.
In a million
it'll
miles
just take it all over.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to start
I think
saying,
we're literally going into another, almost like an industrial revolution. It's going to have that big an impact.
We need, Luke, a creative schooling system that produces an entrepreneurship of problem solving, even if they just called it the course of problem solving.
So my wife is a school teacher, so she taught secondary school up to GCSE, so she's retired now, and it's fascinating. And one of the tragedies we've got going on in schools is that they are clearing out all the older teachers, so that because younger teachers are cheaper. And it's a tragic situation because there's no one there anymore to mentor the younger teachers coming through, because they're getting rid of the experience because they're expensive, and you've got a system that's obsessed by exam results, and box ticking rather than educating the whole child, you know, for ready for life and experiences. It's a very weird system that we seem to be pursuing.
In Denmark, a teacher's wages are similar to a GP's.
Wow.
They really value that is the, you know, that burst of education from sort of 3 to sort of 16 is very, very key to them being a successful country and producing people that can.
And we need learning. We need to encourage people. And I think this is true whether you're talking about adult learning for business. You know, I am 52 years old and I am learning more now than I have ever learned. The pace of change is incredibly exciting.
A young team helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, really helps.
Put a young team around you.
Really helps.
Oliver. But a young team, you know, it just keeps me on point with what's going on. The digestion of you know, the digestion of how people now with the Gen Zs are watching our ads and stuff like that. We have a social media people, Be Inspired, that run our social media. No one's over 23 in that company. They are all on it. They know what's going on. They're very good. Should we do one more question, yeah?
Yes, do one more.
One more. Here we go. Will you ever live it down, Oliver? Will you ever live it down? Right. Go, Luke.
Right, should we try a green one this time? Okay. Number 7.
Number 7. Do you have any phrases that you live by?
Ordinary people can do extraordinary things.
Yeah, that's a lovely one. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. That's very good. Yeah, I like that.
Or one more. We climb the mountain, not in giant leaps, but one small step at a time.
The one that James has been going on about and has been pushing, and I just love it. You know, calm seas don't make a good sailor, and it's so true. You're as what is the one that you're as good as the people around you? What is it?
As the 7 people around you, or the 5 people. That you...
But that one is, you know, surround.
You're the product of the 5
product,
people.
Yes, that's right.
The product of the 5 people around you.
And you know, and you need to look in the mirror and have a look who you are around, because you know, if it's your brother-in-law telling you that, I'm not too sure you should do that, he's probably only telling you that because he doesn't want you to be a success. I
had a conversation. We just employed a guy to do AI for us, and I was having a conversation with him about launching products inside the business, and And I said to him, look, your customers in this context are the people who are kind of going to use that product, but you need to put it in front of them. You've got to put it live. Don't make it perfect.
Yeah.
Just get as quickly as possible to something that can go live, and then get real feedback from either people who are paying for it. You don't learn about a product until you ask someone to pay for it. No. And then the moment someone's trying to,
because it will soon tell you.
They'll soon tell you whether it's any good if you ask them for their money. And I think that's true in any business. Then start iterating and learning from that. But just launch.
But and we did a talk in a university, and they were saying, when do you know when it's the right time to launch a business? And I said, well, that will be yesterday.
Yes,
you just need to get it out there, because you're only going to learn from the real reality that there's no money coming in, or it's not going down well, or the price point is wrong, or whatever. I went to one of these big trade shows, and I would ask the people the price point of that, and as soon as they said what it was, you think, no one's going to buy that. My head would just say, no one's going to buy it. You're just fishing for a one golden customer that will buy it. Where what we really want is, we want flow of people buying stuff off us regularly.
You learn more from that, don't you?
That's it.
That evolution, lots of contact, and also talking to your customers.
Yeah.
And listening to what they say,
Big
because
time.
they're the fountains of all knowledge. They're the ones who really tell you whether you're getting it right.
I think it's like there's a bit of, for some business owners, especially when I do some work with them, that they are living in a fantasy world of what they really think business is all about.
Yeah.
And it is about margin, something that people want, solving a problem. And that's really what happens, making it very frictionless. The frictionless thing. You look at Amazon. He works tirelessly that you can actually more or less do it with two buttons. You go like that and go like that, and it turns up. Well, he's winning.
And simplicity is incredibly difficult. Actually, you have to you have to go round. I always look at business in terms of like an onion, and you peel back a layer and you find there's another layer and another layer, and to achieve simplicity, you've probably got to go round that loop like 50 times. To each time you think, this is the perfect solution. And then you do it again once you see the interaction with customers. So I think that's the holy grail of business. It's not easy to do, though.
No, it's not easy to do. But pricing, pricing is just key. We work hard on this. I mean, the industrial business parks, it's quite easy. The market determines that price structure. But here, to get that right, that you're not pushing them away, but you're not getting too many. It's difficult.
But the point I think about pricing is to look at constraints. Coming back to the point about constraints. So, are you demand constrained? So, or are you capacity constrained? Now, here, for instance, with your business here, you're ultimately capacity constrained, because you can only do a certain number of events. So the price can be quite elastic based on that, because you can keep pushing. Each time you get towards capacity, you just put prices up again.
That's right, and that has happened over the period, but the mechanics of the wedding thing is that it needs to get up to cruise, and to do that, you have to do, and you change your price here, but that price is for 18 months. So it's very difficult, because it's fixed, and we've played with it and done different things, and we've brought different products to it, and upgrades is where you can adjust the price within the upgrades, but they can come at entry level and then upgrade as they go. But there's nuances with every product and service that you're selling, but I think it is, the attention to detail needs to be worrying. You need to really work hard on. It's never, that's that price of that. It's never as easy.
And it's a moving feast as well. And the offers are moving. And business doesn't stand still. No. Like your business, you might, I don't mean you personally, but one's business might think, I'm in a stable market. It's not. But the truth of the matter is, if you're not moving your business forward continuously, you're going backwards. Because someone else is.
So the saying will be, innovate or evaporate. That is a great saying, and everybody should be making sure that they've got that in their psyche and radar, that they're paying attention to that. Are we doing what you're reading?
We are.
Are we finished with this?
What are we reading?
So that's nothing to do with you. That's not in your bedroom. That's like quite professional, wasn't it?
No, but I managed the production of it.
What, you sent the email to Fiverr?
I put in the prompt.
That's very good. Well, you said what you've read it. I mean, are you reading anything outside of him?
Other things, I think one of the things
I mean,
read
he
a lot
can get on your tail. You will
can.
be deep diving into it.
I think one of the things I read a lot at the moment is how I'm consuming video. At the moment, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So in the past, I would watch videos and on YouTube, now along, and I found that was a lot of time to be allocating something. And now what I've designed is a prompt, and I'll go onto YouTube, a video, I watch the first minute. If it looks like something I'm interested in, then I take you can get the transcript of any YouTube video. So I'll take the transcript, put it into my prompt, and that spits me out a 4 or 5 page summary, all the bullet points, you lose some of the nuance, but you get virtually everything. You consume someone's content on YouTube who might have 30 or 40 videos, you get their entire thinking in a relatively short pace of time. And so that represents a lot of my reading now.
It's like a synopsis sort of SWOT of it, isn't
a SWOT
it?
of their thing. So I think that's one of the interesting uses of AI at the moment, is to speed up the learning process. And then also capturing and keeping that information. I look back over, it's not so much what I'm reading, but I've built out using a platform called Notion, which if anyone hasn't used it, I really recommend it. Notion.
Okay.
And it's very intuitive, and you can build out wikis in there, which are like knowledge stores. So now what my whole team does, we've got this one for marketing. So anyone in the team who finds any good bit of content, any bit of knowledge, in there it goes. So, and it's got this great...
for everybody to then look
Everybody in the team
right,
looks at that.
Yeah.
So it's all divided into, it might be on ads, it might be AI, it might be leadership, it might be, anything.
And you can just search and call it
And you
up.
search it, it's got an AI thing in there. So the AI engine in. So we've now been doing this for about 4 or 5 months. It's got thousands of pieces of content in there. All that we've pre-vetted. Someone in the team has said, this is a great piece of content. And so you go into the AI that sits with that, and you say, tell me about messaging for this, or tell me about this thing, and out it comes.
I mean, it's very interesting because I've just spent hours looking at the Ineos Grenadier, the 4-wheel drive thing. I think, I might be putting my rooftop tent on there, go camping in Switzerland in that, it'd be great. So I did a deep dive in YouTube. So hours of watching. It was very interesting because you were getting a mechanic's point of view on one video.
Yep.
Then the next one, you're getting a guy that does off-roading just for the hell of it. Then another guy's doing camping and how it rolled and didn't roll, and how much capacity of diesel to get him across the Sahara. And you're having all these different entities.
So the way you would use Notion, for example, is you would, in this context, you create a page that was on in the vehicle, and then you might dump the videos in there, you might take the transcript, so you've got that if you wanted to be able to read that, and you just build up, and then you just leave that in there. So then you might be looking at other vehicles, you might be looking at stuff for your business, and it just gradually builds into this.
It gives you that little portfolio of stuff in there.
So that any time, it's cumulative, isn't it? So over a period of time, you don't have to keep remembering all this stuff. You can go back into there, and you've only saved the best bits.
That might do me instead as I get older, because I keep forgetting everything. I just go to that. But that's very interesting. Say it again. What is it called?
Notion.
Okay, that's a good tip. I think we've had a very good conversation. I think for our pod listeners and viewers to hear, without it being too mechanical within the thing of it, we've skipped over a lot of broad stuff with you, Luke. But I think it's shown you as a very, capable entrepreneur living on the edge at that level. I think that's been interesting for people. But thank you very much for coming down. Thanks for coming to Baddow Park.
I've loved it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to do a proper tour of the house in a minute. Find out where we're going to use all these diffusers and smells, and try and spend some money with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Cool. If you've enjoyed this episode, like, subscribe, leave a comment. There's someone you know that could gain something from what we do here. Pass the pod. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the next one.